one thing that's really interesting about you, most people, when you ask them what age did you start surfing, when did you get your first board, most people will be like, yeah, I don't know, 3, 4, if they're like sort of exaggerating. How old were you when you got your first board?
A few hours.
A few hours old, right?
Yeah. Dad has a tradition when there's a new Egan born into the world, he just goes straight to the factory and shapes a board for him.
And what did he write on that board, do you remember?
Yeah, it was, he did. He wrote the year 2000 world champion.
World champion runner-up in the year 2000. You went that close, man. Second to Sonny Garcia.
So in 1969, he was only one off.
Yeah, that's amazing, mate. Far out. I mean, he clearly just sensed that there was something special in you. Something special was coming with the surfing as well. Mark, Newcastle, an unbelievable surf city. So many legends, none bigger than yourself, of course, and Matthew down the end there as well. Louis joining the Hall of Fame. When did you first notice this kid? When did he stand out to you as someone who could do something special in surfing?
I can't remember when I first saw Luke surf, but obviously I'd say the first time I saw him surf. I have this saying like my mum and dad both surfed and I was born into a surfing family, and I think Luke with Sam and Mark, their history of surfing and Sam's incredible shaping, I think Luke was born into a same situation where he was either going to grow up to be a world-class surfer, one of the best in the world, or possibly one of the best shapers in the world. So we were both in the Merriweather Board Club, and I spent so much time surfing with Luke over the years and surfing Merriweather and seeing him progress and go through the cadet and the junior ranks and then onto the tour. And, I followed his career, and there was no, probably, I'm sure his parents, but I was going to say there was no one more stoked than me to see Luke doing so well. And when I heard he was getting inducted into the Hall of Fame here, I was like so stoked for him. I sent him a message straight away. I was, to use a Tom Carroll phrase, I was totally frothing about his induction.
You're always frothing him, huh? Love it. Louis, you were, a child prodigy. You got sponsored at an early age. People could recognise your talent. You were a part of that surfing world clique. That's where a lot of people got to first know you. But you really burst onto the international scene by making the final of the, was it the 88 Billabong Pro against Barton Lynch? 88, 89. It was an incredible contest, like bombing pipe, and you finished runner-up in this all-time contest where there's a lot at stake. I think there's Carroll going for the world title, there's Barton going for it, I think maybe Duma or Curran was in the mix as well. And it's a pretty famous event, but mate, what do you mean? And actually, I think you surfed against Occy in a quarter or a semi in that event. Do you remember that, Ock?
I do, yeah, it was huge. Luke loved big waves a lot more than I did, and it was a really big day, and I was so stoked to see him go on to, almost win. BL took it that day, but Luke had a lot of good results at pipe, and I learned a lot from him by surfing together there a lot, and free surfing when we could, early mornings or just in heats. But that it was a memorable heat. Do you remember what happened that heat?
Yeah, you dropped in on me. You forgot I had priority.
I did. I did. I thought I had priority, and Luke dropped in on me, and I couldn't work out what was going on. But that's just typical me. But I think he would have smoked me anyway. That heat, I think he was actually.
I remember it now. I remember there's a lot of wash-throughs. So we had a pretty low-scoring heat, and a good one came, and he was ox paddling in. I'm like, what are you doing?
I know.
I've got priority, mate. Because I think we got washed around by a couple of wash-throughs.
Yeah, and we were laughing about it in the heat, let alone after it, and the amount of beers we had after that event. But, I mean, it was treacherous out there, and,
I remember sitting in a bar with you two at Mundaka one year, and that heat came up on a TV for some reason. And you were both watching it together, having a beer, and you were just chuckling your heads off going, what were you thinking, Ock?
I was just shoulder hopping,
Mate, Louis, that was a great result at a really young age at a majorly consequential wave. But it took you kind of 10 years between that event and your first breakout win at G-Land. No surprises that it sort of coincides with the Waves on Tour becoming the Dream Tour. Yeah, what was going on in those 10 years, mate? We know that you were making the Billabong films and that had a huge impact on your life, but why wasn't the CT sort of gelling with you in those early stages of your career? Is that just simply because the Waves weren't inspiring enough for you?
Yeah, you mentioned a Dream Tour. Thank God for that, because my passion for, and I mentioned it just before, is my passion just purely for the art of riding a wave and riding it at my best ability on the best surfboard I possibly can. Sometimes, and for so long, that'd be it. I wouldn't think about anything else. And going and doing the movies with Jack, and then coming back, and the contests weren't in such good waves, and I'd have to get my idea back into into small competition surf. Yeah, and so it did take me a while to get a win, and I was always only just making it, and then thank God, guys like Damien Hardman and Barton Lynch and everyone kind of stamped their feet on the ASP board and said, we want to go and surf in good waves, and that's what we created the Dream Tour, and it took Alan Green at Quicksilver and Rod as well, and Gordon Merchant at Billabong, and Claw and Brian at Rip Curl to listen to the surfers and start putting their events in good waves.
That's it, man. And as soon as the Dream Tour kicks on, you start winning comps. You won in Fiji, you won at G-Land, you won at Mundaka, you won at Trestles, all your world-class, really fun waves. And you become a genuine world title threat, which is fun to talk about. But let's just go back to 97, because that's the G-Land win. A big year for Newcastle, Mark. Matt Hoy wins Bells. Louis wins G-Land, and the Newcastle Knights win the premiership in the rugby league. I just got to ask you, mate, was it better than Lego?
It was a pretty insane year, but I think Luke and Matt winning was bigger than the Knights.
You're such a surf brother, it's true.
I thought so anyway. I'm sure there would be a lot of league fans that wouldn't agree with that, but I was, it was incredible to see them both win that year.
Yeah. What about you, Hoya? Any memories from 97, or is the thing just a write-off?
Don't even know what you're talking about. Forget it all. We inspired the Knights to win the premiership that year. Me and Luke that year, 100%. What we did that year, inspired the Knights to be better than they were, and not better than they were, who they are and what we did, inspired them 100%. They were our mates, and they all surfed, and it was a big, Newcastle's a pretty tight-knit, community, and I swear, I claim it anyway. Luke doesn't claim it, I claim it. We inspired them to win that grand final that year too. So because of us winning what we did that year, 100%. 97 was a real good year for Newcastle.
True. Yeah, I go for Manly, so it was a pretty shit year for me.
Yeah, it was a shit year for you, Blakey.
Yeah, real bad. Ock, you and Louis spent a lot of time travelling together. I believe were you caddying for his G-Land win?
I was,
Yep.
yeah.
So you're in the water for that.
Yep.
Any memories from that day? Because, if you're going to win a comp and it's your first comp on the CT, 8 to 10 foot, just cupped out draining speedies is the place to do it.
Yeah. Luke was on fire that whole event. We caddied for each other like we did for a few years. Before I get to G-Land, he caddied for me, through my world title year, and he was probably having his apprenticeship at coaching, then he didn't even know it. But and I caddied for Luke and tried to coach him, but I was a shit coach. Sorry, Luke. He probably would have won a world title, but in my era, the best surfer to never win a world title, guaranteed. In good waves, Luke was amazing, the most technical surfer I'd ever seen. I learned a lot from Luke in my surfing style and everything. But that event at G-Land, I remember Luke just telling me, just don't take off on a wave, don't break my board, don't get me disqualified.
It's funny because what happens is it happened in Fiji too. So you're only allowed one caddy, but by the time the finals come around, I'm in the final. I always end up with two, and it's Matthew Hoy and Occy. They're both grabbing my boards and just so they can go and sit in the channel and watch from close.
I caddied for
two
you.
people screaming at me.
I caddied for you both, actually, in a heat. I didn't know what to tell you. I was like, what the fuck? Oh, you're killing it, mate. And I'll swap boards. You're killing it, mate. Yeah, swap boards. Bure won, ruled, mate.
It was Bure one.
Bure won.
Mate, they are
I didn't know
some
who to tell was killing it.
classic days on tour. You three caddying for each other and surfing heats against each other. You guys had a memorable heat in Fiji too, right?
We did, yeah, quarterfinal.
I was the caddy.
Oh, that was the one.
I think when Luke won, we met in the quarters and vice versa. But yeah, it was all happening in Bure one, from skull drags to everything else. We had a good time. The wins were epic.
That's pretty memorable heats there, though, fellas. Like unbelievable tube jousting and absolutely ripping at each other as hard as you could. Did it bring out your best surfing against your mates, Louis?
100%. That quarter at Fiji, Ock got a 9, and then I got a 9, and it took a 10. It took a 10 down the end of the reef to beat him, and. It's such a satisfying feeling when you're in the water with one of your best mates, and it turns into you putting on a performance for everyone else. I'm pushing him, he's pushing me. You do it. There's some big scores, and you're like, oh wow, everyone. I reflect in those heats and I'm just like, wow, everyone must be loving this. Yeah. You're just kind of really stoked to be both putting on a great performance.
Mate, reflections on the 2000 year when you're in that hunt for the world title against Sonny Garcia. Pretty major moment for you, especially after being on tour for so long. What are your takeaways from that when you reflect upon it? It was frustrating through the last half of the year. I needed Sonny to lose and me get a really good result, so then it was really close. But Sonny had a fairly decent lead on me, and then I had a massive lead on anyone else. So, and it was just really frustrating because he would just keep making the quarters, and then I'd make the quarters, I'd get a third, and then he'd be there at the quarters, so I'd only make up, a couple hundred points on him. And the most frustrating thing was he was just so consistent, and it was no matter what I did, I had to get a win, and he had to lose early. But even though it went on like that, it's just when the stuff out of your control is not going your way, it gets frustrating. But still, you're where you deserve to be, fighting for a world title right up until the end of the year. And I think that's something that, you'll reflect on fondly as your life. Yeah, for continues. Sure. It's really nice, and everyone here can vouch for it. It's really nice being at the pointy end, and gives you a lot of confidence, and just keeping that consistent focus going. It's it's a real fun place to be. As you mentioned, you went through a crossover. You went from, battling MR in your early stages of your career right through to basically like Occy, and then the next generation comes through, Parco, Mick and all these guys. By the time, Andy, of course, you had great battles with him. Bells, for example, I remember a couple of good heats there. But, mate, when you left the tour and you did some work in marketing at Billabong for a long time, Joel, what was it that you saw in Louis that you thought could bring out the best in your potential?
For me, probably the attention to detail, to the little things. I thought, Luke, you come from a surfboard manufacturing family and been an amazing surfer. Just for me personally, his attention to detail for equipment in right conditions, and I had a surfing talent, but probably would ride the wrong board, wrong conditions, all those kind of things, and he definitely tightened the screws up on all those holes and made it great, and had a great work ethic he has, so I really tried to strive like that too.
How hard did you have to beat the drum for Joel, mate? Was he willing and up and into it, or were you having a crack at a bit? When I'm coaching, I just try my best to turn it into just going surfing with a mate, and I really like with my surfers to go surfing with them a lot while I'm in the water, watch them from the ocean and talk to them, and make it more of a friendship of just going surfing with a friend. I feel like it
it just loosens them up a little bit, gets them to open up to you a little bit on how they're feeling and they're thinking. And yeah, and the same as Joel and I, we just surfed a ton together and just tell him to change little pieces here and there. And yeah, just there's so many small boxes to tick to get to you know, all the people that make the World Championship Tour have the assets to win a world title, but to use them at the right time and to use them at your best at a consistent basis is what we're trying to achieve.
And mate, 2012, you said before, you know, a magic experience for you to be a part of that journey, to see through one of the all-time great surfers to reach his full potential and get that world title. Joel Parco getting it done over the GOAT at Pipeline, a day we all remember and love. How much of a role did Louis play in that journey, Joel?
Well, the year just leading up to that year, Louis and I was like, Louis, like, it's all good. This year I want to have a crack on my own. And I felt like Louis had given me such good tools to go into that year by myself that, and I would still always bounce stuff off. Like, he was definitely my sounding board. And to surf that year and get to the end and know that I would still use what he put in place every heat. We had this thing about fins, what fins I'd have to use on a certain size when it was the right time, and I just felt like all the advice he'd given me, that I really used it on that year.
And you got it done, mate. Over the GOAT.
I thought you were
Love
about
that.
to call me lazy for a minute too.
Hoy, it's been an incredible surfing life. Your dear friend over here, he's in the Hall of Fame. Sum him up for us, as someone who's known him since you were best mates at school. I'm doing this on purpose, by the way. I'm trying to get tears out of him.
Of course you are.
Describe this fella and what his surfing means to you and his friendship.
I've known Luke since I was 4 years old. We had the same babysitter. We were on romper room together. Pretty fucked up already. A good start, right? And then, yeah, what he's done for me in my career, and like, I was going nowhere, and Luke come and got me from high school and went, mate, come on, have a go at this, mate. So he got me on tour and just let me go too. Just go, see, mate, we didn't hang out. We just hanging like every year. Just let me go what I was doing, you know. We're not the same. He gets up early, I stay up late. So it's like vampire, like, what do you call it? Early morning, late night, different whole act, right? But he let me go and just let me do what I was doing and always supported me in what he's done for me my whole life. It's like he's my big brother that I never had, and the whole Egan family, what they did for me was amazing. And mate, I'm so proud of him. It's so sick. Like, I love the man. He's one of my heroes and one of my best friends and like a big brother to me. And what he's done for me my whole life is fucking so cool. I'm so stoked for him.
That's beautiful, man. That is awesome. Cherish friendship. Well, Louis, you continue to inspire, mate.
Try not to cry.
Good on you. Yeah, you continue to inspire, you continue to achieve. You've got such a high standard for yourself and for the friends and family and the athletes that you work with. And really the last question I just want to ask you, man, is how's your standard with your own surfing? What's your relationship with, like today, when you stand on a board? You know, are you still that guy who wants to just push the hardest turn in the steepest section?
100%. Yeah, it's, surfing still gives me so much. Jason will send me 4 or 5 boards and I'm on the phone by that afternoon telling him what I think of them and usually all positive. But yeah, I still love testing boards for JS, going surfing as much as I possibly can. I still train a lot to stay at a level that I'm happy to surf. It's really weird. Sometimes when there's no surf, which has been recently in Sydney, there hasn't been many waves around, and I wake up in the morning sometimes and go, all right, 55 in January, I probably can still ride a 5'11" till I'm about 60. That's 5 years. How many surfs a week is that? Like, I'm counting down. I'm just like, oh my God, how can I stay at a high level for that long? And yeah, 5 a.m. gym sessions, everything just, I'm just mad at it to stay as fit as I possibly can, to go as fast as I possibly can at the steepest part of the wave and do the hardest turn as I possibly can.
Well, mate, when we think of Luke Egan, I'm telling you, we're all going to think of Leadfoot Louie banking the biggest, sickest cutty and throwing buckets to the heavens, mate. Please be upstanding for your Hall of Fame inductee for 2024, Luke Egan.